We're doing something.
Larry's gone again.
Hello, Annette.
I don't have Andy and we don't have.
Not talking to me.
No.
Hello, Annette.
Yeah, we got a quorum now.
Yep.
We got 5 of us.
She not speaking to you?
Don't bite me.
I always pick the paper, I have to.
Sometimes I don't even do that.
Boy, it's hot in here. I'm gonna have to
It's
get
warm.
this
Well, somebody talking about you being on the sports letting meeting last night?
Did I miss anything last night? I went home, I was hoping to hear something, and they shut it off.
I
heard you weren't feeling well.
I have
See,
had
they
a
don't record
cold
their workshops.
now for I don't
I
know
would
how
have stayed,
long.
but I
Over
don't know what
a
to
month.
do.
No, they.
And that
no,
night I
they
was
really
just-
did, honestly.
A day.
Well, you know, when you go somewhere.
That was a couple weeks ago.
All right. Oops.
We're supposed to do it.
I'm sorry. I'll be there tomorrow night. You can come back.
Come on, wake up. Why you saying it was a slow day?
Yeah, I don't have any.
Because I got here just about the time the meeting's supposed to start. That's why I'm running slow.
At least yours works.
Yeah. I hope it stays working because ain't nothing I hate worse than getting a new computer.
I know when I had to do 2.
There's a,
Because my wife does not usually.
Yep. Well,
She's
wherever
got
it
hers,
is.
I've got mine, so.
well, we're not.
Are we recording now?
We're recording. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Started about 6.
All right.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah, you know, yours broke down. I said my wife's broke down, so I had to buy her one, and then mine broke down about a month and a half, 2 months afterwards. And one of the ones I had was like, here we go. I've got a good one that I keep to the side for all my regular stuff, but like this one, I carry around.
Haven't you got to?
Occasionally, I get a bunch of.
Well, guess what?
Milton White, not secure. Do we have a password?
It's up on the board over there.
Milton Guest.
Dash guest.
Guest.
What are they doing?
Milton Guest, Milton 5G.
Yeah, no, actually, that's the name of it. Looks like it's open.
Once you get
Connected?
in, it is open, yeah.
Yeah, I am connected. So, guess what? There's more than one way to skin. Okay. This is the downside of having stuff on your. On the,
It's a Google thingy.
Yeah, on the Google thingy. All right. Give us a minute. We're having technical difficulties here.
She is pretty smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good now. See how long this lasts.
Well, I'll take one, yeah. Yes. Just let me know if you want to.
You need to know. I'll be right back. Smoking wine.
Yeah. Okay.
So where is the
All
password?
right. It's open,
It's open, so all you need to do is just go
I
in.
believe.
Which one is open?
Milton Guest.
Yeah, that one. Milton 5G Guest.
They both are.
Or, let's see if this works.
I keep getting
Okay.
I keep getting no internet. You got internet?
I shut this off.
All right, and, yeah, this is the, there we go. Okay, I got internet. Okay,
Would you like some help?
It's just sitting there connecting.
come on.
Try again.
This one.
Yeah.
Are you able to get online?
Okay,
Are you able to get online?
yep. I
Can you-
just, are you able to get online?
No.
Okay, if you search your Wi-Fi for a Verizon something or another, connect, and I'll give you the password after you find it, if you're interested in getting online.
Verizon SM?
That's probably it. Can't be too many of them.
Okay.
Password is all lowercase, COGITO,
CO.
GITO,
Uh-huh.
0513.
See if that works.
I'll see how long my phone battery lasts now. There we go. Okay, let's see. Now I'm in there. Let's open this up an agenda, which I probably could have just borrowed Bob's agenda because I think he was the smart one that printed it.
We can share it. It's right there for you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, while it's thinking about opening up here, I will call the meeting to order at about 6:06. And let's everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and if we could have roll call for the city members, starting from my right, we'll change it up.
Change it up. Humphrey Williams.
Bob Carrier.
Dennis Woods. You're not here? You're
Peg Hurd.
And Thomas McDougal, chairman. And a late arrival with Mr. Larry Brown, who was here and then left.
Larry Brown.
Okay, as the members can, and for those watching, I apologize, we had technical difficulties getting started. But as the members can see, we've got a couple members of the school board here. They have some school issues that they wanted to talk about here that they're really concerned about. So I will turn it over to,
Doug, you want to get started?
don't know who wants to,
We are getting,
Doug shoot?
if you go to page 1 on your thing there, the school's gonna get an additional $361,003 this year. Added to the A. It was unexpected. Well, some towns are getting more than that. Claremont, New Hampshire got 6.2 million.
Can we get a connection to that?
No, we can't. Okay, the reason we're coming to you is that we need that money. We have some capital projects that we need to do. And I'll go into depth. One is would deal with the fire alarm, which would be safety. And the other one would be an air handler, which would deal with health. The air handler would be at MES, and the fire alarm would be in both buildings. Now, to go to page 4, for the fire alarm, in the dark column over the right, we're going to have engineering studies that potentially will support. The two fire alarms, it's $25,000 to do the design, and below that one, for the MES, it's first floor and second floor. It's going to be $30,000. What I'm going to ask you to do, to go down to that $300,000, also put $400,000 as a figure in here. Maybe it may be less than that, but that's a rough estimate. And the engineering study has not been done, so we don't have an accurate figure to install. We do have a fairly accurate figure to do the air handler for $161,025. And why we're meeting with you is we're going to call a special town meeting. In doing so, it's going to hold up your setting your tax rate. So we'll be discussing that tomorrow night at the school board, and then we'll make a decision to go forward. If the school board decides to go forward, it'll definitely hold up your tax rate. But if you go to page, I gotta find it myself. Page 2, that will be the schedule. All right? That was given to us by our attorney. All right? So we've already talked to Ernie, okay, the TA, on the 28th. I think it's the 28th, it's next Monday. We're going to go before the selectmen and talk to them. And we'll give the DRA tomorrow, the next day, the answer. We're going to go forward, but it looks like we are because we definitely need this money. And what you're gonna find, there's a lot of talking points there. Peg wrote the talking points, it's a synopsis of everything. The schedule was from our attorney. Page 3 is the law that allows us to go forward in a lot of things. We can't get an accurate figure how many towns are doing this, but there's a lot of towns in the same boat as we are. 5 is your CIP plan that we presented to the planning board. Now, the reason we're doing this, if you go to 5A, that would be fire alarm. And if you read that first paragraph in there, as of 2018, the Siemens, which is the company that manufactures the parts for that, and they're the only company that can repair it, the parts they will not be producing anymore. Okay? And if you go through the list, in under 5 days, it's going to tell you what parts they're not going to produce. I'm giving you the whole list of parts that they will not manufacturing anymore. That doesn't mean we can't find them out there, but we'd have to search for them. That's for the fire alarm. Okay? Now, if you go to page 5B, that's a letter from the chief, assistant chief, Devin. And if you turn the page beyond the 5B, you have the national fire codes. If you go to the next page, which is, it says 13 on it, but if you read that statement, in order to have occupancy in a building, that fire alarm goes down, you have to have a fire alarm in the school buildings. No ands, no buts, that's all the fire department will say. You don't say what type you have to have in there. What we're gonna say is you gotta have a working fire alarm. Right? Going on to 6A, that deals with the air handler. And 6A is the correspondence that we got up front telling us we have some issues. Okay? Now, if you go to the next page, 6B, that's the latest one, and that's the cost that'll be to do the engineering study, the proposed fee. On that, you need to add another $300, and the construction cost will be $183,425, and that's we've already got our rough on that, but don't have to do the design. And I want you to go to page 7. Okay. The last 11 years, your school has given back to the town from 2009 to 2019, $2,794,000, $228 to bring down your tax rate.
What does that have to do with all the rest of the stuff
Because
you just
the
mentioned?
people keep telling that the school doesn't get the credit the money it gives back.
But this is not part of this discussion, right?
Yes, it is.
It's a different discussion, right?
No, it isn't, because this applies to what's being discussed.
I don't find that's true.
So this is what we're doing, is we're giving you the FYI information. You can read this. Have you everything to say?
Yeah, what happened was this money was kind of late in being approved and going out to different towns. School districts, they labeled it as anticipated revenue rather than unanticipated revenue, which makes a big difference in how we deal with it. I was on the phone with, I don't know how many people. Nate was talking to the DRA. We talked to our attorney, and it basically ended up being that we had to have a general meeting with people from the town, with all of our 21 days ahead of time, the 7 and then the 14. But as Doug has pointed out, we really need this money for the fire alarm system and the air handler. They are part of the CIP, but
So this was already identified as a need,
yes.
along with the capital plan to facilitate it,
Right,
correct?
right. So it's on the CIP.
Yep.
Or both projects are on the CIP. But this would be able to go towards both projects. And, next year we would not have to put everything on the CIP and warrant articles and whatever.
The only thing I want to bring up, Peg hasn't touched, the town also got extra money,
Yes.
also like us, but not as much as us.
No, and theirs was actually listed as unanticipated. So they are free to just have a public hearing and say, this is what we received. Yep, we're gonna use it.
Now,
So-
on this, because I'm looking at the capital improvement plan. So the
Yeah.
Right.
plan for the fire alarm system was supposed to be in '22.
Now, don't go by the dates, we just,
Well, no, but I'm saying, but that's when it was projected that the money would be used, is what I'm going by, right?
we have to probably put it in a special fund. We haven't done that, but we put it in the renovation trust fund and then take it out of there. But we cannot take the engineering studies out of that renovation fund. But you say, we have a lot of money and that's not in there.
Well, what I was gonna ask is, what's on for the budget year 2020 on the capital improvement plan that can be shifted to help? I'm not saying no to any of this, I'm just looking at, you must have the 2020 capital improvement plan.
Don't, that's the beginning right there. That's just the
2021's
names
the beginning of it?
that's the initial
Right.
proposal
Okay,
right
all
there.
right.
We're in year 2020,
I know, you guys are currently working under that. but-
right?
But my point was, is you didn't have, my question is that you didn't have anything, there was nothing on the capital improvement plan for 2020
No.
already?
No.
Yeah, that's what that was about. Okay.
Yeah.
No. Sorry.
So with that in mind, Doug, my comment is okay, this money goes through and you get it approved. What's it looking like for a start date to do this whole thing?
Gotta do the engineering studies right off, so they can proceed with those two projects. Maybe 1 and 2, we'll probably do the air handler first, and then the fire alarm.
Yeah, because this comes up short of the whole thing. That's why I'm asking about the balance of this.
Well, we have some news for next year, okay? We got 361 this year. We're being told for next year, for adequacy, we're gonna be getting more than 361. So what we're gonna try to do is come back to you next year and find a way that maybe we can take that extra money out of the adequacy aid and maybe complete these projects completely without raising the tax rate at all. By taking this 361, you shouldn't see an increase in your tax rate at all. We're allowed to do this. And that's our plan. The board will have to discuss it. We'll come before you and we're gonna see if there's another vehicle we can get a hold of that additional adequacy aid money for next year, because it's gonna be, like I said, more than 361. You know, this is a lot to, so this isn't the only things that we need to put on the CIP, where we haven't had time to put other things that need to be put on there.
Well, that was kind of why I'm asking the question, because I know we talked in the past about capital improvement plan for the school.
Yeah.
You know, what else is in there? If this comes up short of what's needed, and you're relying on money that isn't here yet, that's what I'm looking
We
at.
have no problem, we know we're gonna get the money. That won't be in there, that 361 is not a problem.
And the budget is already approved and those figures are out for
This year.
this year, and then approved for next year, but we don't know exactly how much.
Well, we've been
But
told
it'll-
it'll be more than
Yeah,
361.
yeah.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. The state budget will be biennial. That's why it's
Yes.
carrying forward. Secondly, the school district has had, over time, essentially a parallel CIP process. The original CIP from 2005 was flawed. Could not be put into place for two reasons. One, it was flawed, and secondly, departments had, at that time, still played mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy. That's my warped, bias, accurate historical perception. The new one is in place and has worked to bring the previously labeled, for example, replacement of school buses on an annual turnover basis into the name structure of the new CIP. So that's where that comes, that's why it's starting out in 2020. It was in place for 2019. It was called redo the buses and transportation. Third point, the money that goes back into the general fund is then at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen to use it to build up the fund, or to use it to pay down the tax rate. What Doug is saying is that is still the option and decision of the Board of Selectmen. And the school district, for spending this $361,000 is not putting any funds of the town at risk, and actually bringing down the tax rate by not having to bring this program into the formal structure of the CIP. Okay. Now, sarcasm. In February, the budget for school aid was $160 million, and for municipal aid, it was another 60. The governor on September 25th vetoed that budget, lowered business tax rates, and brought the $160 million down to 136, and brought the $60 million down to 38, and is claiming credit for the decreased money from the governor himself. If you do the math and you go back to February, that's not the case.
No, we do have other projects that we need to put on the CIP. These took priority. We have, we need to do the Damon House over, which is the SIU building. It's gotta be recited, okay? We gotta do paving, okay, in several spots. This is for the future. And then we got a culvert at the MES. We dropped the kids off at the kindergarten, it's no good. So that, we'll definitely work on those this summer and get them on the CIP. Those are for the future.
Well, I knew, and like I said, to talk with Larry, I knew you guys had the buses and other things in it. That's the only reason I was asking, is whether there's any projects that can be shifted to help
No.
as well. That's what the question was about. It wasn't to say no, I'm just asking.
Well, even the ones, but the majority of the buses are in the operating budget because they do it, they buy lease. Technically, they should be also in the CIP. We gotta put them in the CIP.
Right.
We haven't done that yet. That'll, we're gonna,
Yeah, vehicles and things like that, was their big purchase items, yes.
definitely need the money. And if you look at the schedule, there will be a special meeting, 11, 15, 19, if we go forward. People can come in. We hope everybody, it's going to be a yes vote, comes and votes, because we definitely need these projects done. Because the air handler goes down. The fire alarm can't repair, but I'm more worried about the air handler than I am the fire alarm right
It's, MES will not be habitable either.
now. The air handler goes down, yeah. That would be different than the
Okay.
different code.
If I could summarize basically our last 15 minutes of discussion. Basically, the school's got an opportunity to get some $360,000. They can't spend it this year because of the way that it was appropriated. Therefore, you're holding a special meeting so that you can accept the money and spend it on these two projects that, regardless of whether we had the money or not, would have to be done relatively
You
soon.
hit the nail on the head.
Having the money now, you're
Save
able
money.
to, or holding a special meeting, getting whoever comes that votes yes, so that allows you to take this money and spend it as you see fit. Right now, you see fit to spend it on these two projects, fire alarm and air handler.
They're the most important right now.
And you know that there's gonna be money next year. Well, I don't know what the number is, but you know you're gonna get money next year because the budget is a biannual budget and it's already set. So
Correct.
you know you'll have money next year and you'll be able to prepare ahead of time so it won't delay the tax rate. And the big deal now is it's simply gonna delay the tax rate setting because of having to hold a special meeting.
Correct, you're right.
Precisely.
All right,
And the
okay.
key thing, it deals with lives of the kids, the health of the kids, and also the staff as well. You go up there into MES, walk into the off, you can see the extreme heat, and you go in the library, folks are concerned. Today, for example, the fire alarm, as of 1 o'clock, kept going off and going off and going off and going off. So these are, you yourselves could go in there tomorrow at 1 probably, and the fire alarm will go off, and you go in and the rooms are very, very hot. So I'm not saying anything on the air that parents aren't aware of, you know.
So I'm gonna ask a question that's probably one of the tougher ones. So what happens if the system goes down tomorrow? What's the plan?
We'll be scrambling
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, what is the plan for the kids?
on every plan. We're hoping it doesn't.
I was gonna say, I think we gotta be looking at a contingency plan, because
Yeah,
if this system, if
you would
either
think.
one of those systems goes down, you're gonna have either the MES or you're gonna have the other schools.
It's gonna have to be,
Gonna have to go someplace.
I think the more thing we're more worried about, I think we might be able to get by with the fire line, we're more worried about the area.
Yeah.
All right, sounds like it's only a good thing to hold the hearing and accept the money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted, I know somebody questioned me on page 7. I just wanted you to realize the money that we did back. We can't spend any of this money. All this money we gave back, we cannot spend unless the taxpayers give us permission to spend it. And I would love to have that $2,794,000.
We very much appreciate it.
I could have solved a lot of problems.
Thank you very much.
Books.
I don't know what else I could say. Thank you.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Hope you spent it wisely.
Yeah, well, the tax rate's going out of control, so I
I
don't
think we can keep it
know.
down.
Regardless of the $2 million, our tax rate is still out of control. So we still got a lot of work to do, but thank you very much.
I agree. Both of us. But the town, I want to say something about the CIP. I think that CIP is a good program. I really do. And I think it's, once we get that leveled out, what we need to do, I'll give you a heads up. What I'd like to do, put it on the warrant. We need to start a program for a plow truck and a 1-ton plow truck also, and put it on a 10-year plan in the CIP. That's what we want to do for the warrant article this coming year in March. So that's our goal. So that way every year, and put $10,000 aside once we start that capital reserve fund. But what we got to do up front, and I don't know. The highway department gave us a plow truck. The plow truck is not the best truck in the world. In order to buy a brand new plow truck, that's going to be $40,000. So we don't know if we're going to put that on the warrant article. You should put those trucks in a rotation for every 10 years, because that's what Pat Smith does with his vehicles up here. And that's what he suggested that the school do, and that's what we want to do in March.
That was the problem I brought up last March. This is
Yeah,
what
so
needed to be put
we are
into
thinking
that
of it,
kind
and
of
we want to
plan.
do it. We would appreciate all your support when those issues come up, in order to get that tax rate leveled off. You may see a tiny bump, but we're not going to see it. Well, I hope the air handle and the fire alarm don't go down, but we'll have to deal with it. But thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
One more question. Do we have consensus, or do you want a formal motion of support from the budget? Or consensus? Sounds good?
Consensus sounds good, I think, because this is, it's not our purview as the
No.
budget. This
Yep.
doesn't have real, well, it's not like we can tell the school, you can't do that. And if we did, they'd probably run us out of here on a rail, so,
I won't do that to you, Tom.
you know,
I might though.
it's, so,
It
consensus
is-
that we agree that they should do it. And,
Not a formal.
I'll show up at the meeting and vote yes.
It is then a solid and prudent use and access of non-taxpayer dollars for the health, safety, and welfare of the district children.
Yep. There's no
Thank you,
reason,
Larry.
no reason that I see to not do it. It'd be kind of stupid not to.
I'm going to ask all of you to come to that special meeting on
15th?
November
I just had it.
15th.
Is that pizza night?
What's that? You having pizza on November 15th?
We'll
Is that
make
what I
it
heard?
pizza night.
Do you,
Yeah, we'll make sure of that.
Where will I find the information?
They will post it in the website.
Yeah, where would you post it?
It'll be on the school website,
School website?
all
In the
over,
paper too.
in the paper.
In the library.
Might be
The
a good, be a
town
good
hall?
idea to have town hall posted on the website too.
Yeah,
Everybody?
any
Yeah.
idea what time the meeting's gonna be?
no, I don't even know what day they love it,
I
15th.
think it's a Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. It's
And we have to get in touch
the
with.
third Friday in November, to be exact.
You'll probably be discussing that tomorrow.
Yeah, we have the board will make a decision to go
Oh,
forward with
then
that.
I
Yeah,
might know.
yeah, we'll let you.
But we have to let the town moderator, Chris, know, and Karen Brown know, and, you know.
And if at all possible, have the meeting 6 o'clock or later. Makes it easier for some of us to attend.
Yep,
I'll take that in as a suggestion.
on a Friday night.
No votes show up on Thursday, yes votes on Friday.
There you go, okay.
Did everybody hear that? Good.
Okay.
Can we put that in the notice?
Friday counts. Thank you very much.
All right, okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Doug, you have time to get downstairs.
All right, and Mr. Woods, if you were to connect to, let me see if I can find it. Oh, you want to connect to here. Might be able to get online, maybe, with a little bit of luck. Get the wireless. Okay.
Trying to connect. So they're having a guy on the site.
Let's see. Hang on. There we go.
I had my spreadsheet, so
Right
it's
there.
not on the.
Yeah. So
I'm
there.
not online for that. I am
And there's
online
the
for part of it.
I think that'll get you online. Okay, I was really hoping to have talked to either Chief Marique or Chief Kraus to see if I
On
could borrow a
spreadsheet.
projector. However, I failed to do so. So I was really hoping to be able to get the projector to, so we can at least all agree on formulas for the spreadsheets.
Well,
And
If I might on that, Tom, I mean, here's the thing, I know we don't have it, and, I mean, people at home aren't gonna see it even if we had a presentation. I have some formulas in here, because I had sent the spreadsheet out. I will tell you, having worked Excel and having to work this, when you're working with percentages, you cannot just go down the line and have a perfect formula. But my suggestion would be, we could circle around my computer so that we have something to look at and then try to figure it out. We need to be looking at something here that we can
yeah,
see
now,
what we're looking at, formula-wise, that's all.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this one here is the multi-year one,
Yep.
and I was playing around with it, and it does work.
yeah,
And
it's
it's just one page at a time. That way there, we don't have
Yep.
to scroll, because each page has its own, and
Yep.
there we can, the only thing that's missing here is the overall budget. If you paste link to the overall, as you make changes, it'll show up on the overall. You'll
Yeah, I
have
put
instant.
that,
yeah.
I put the projected one in there, so it would do that as
Well,
you
this one here was that multi
Yep.
one that is the current one that I know of. There was changes made in the
Well,
town administrative
the-
budget.
The other thing is there are gonna be fairly significant changes made to what the Board of Selectmen give us from what was presented in September to us. That came out of the meeting, their workshop last night.
Yep.
So I'm not, the exact numbers that are in the spreadsheet, I'm not as concerned about right now, as I am more so formulas for agreeing on Medicare is, what is it, 1.2?
1.45.
1.4, yeah, and then.
Social Security's 6.2.
6.2.
Fire retirement is
30.43, and it's
police
28.0, yeah, and I've
Yeah,
got all
it's
the
more-
formulas in.
agreeing on making sure we understand and agree that yes, these are the percentages, and then, because like I said, what we're going to get presented from the Board of Selectmen will be, I expect to be fairly drastically different than what we were presented and what we've been working with so far, based on their outcome from their workshop last night.
Okay.
So I'm
Well, I do know that they have the spreadsheet that show, here's the only thing that I wanted to say on this one, Tom, is that I
Yep.
put the percentages in and calculated out the 5-year average so that you can see line by line. And that is in here to show what kind, what the percentage rates have been for expenditures right down the line, what the percentage rates are currently for projections. Well, I'll come back to Dennis's comment earlier. We don't have a calendarized, spending profile, so all we can go all I did, so that everyone understands, is I had all the expenditures up to the end of September, which meant roughly 75% of the budget was spent. I used that to project where they were gonna be. And, so that you can see where they're high, where they're low, and where they're
Yep.
about where they should be, but.
What,
Yeah,
excuse me,
Yep.
what does that mean?
It means that we can see what they've been spending based on what they've budgeted over the
What
years.
does that mean? What does that say in terms of the rate of inflation? What does that say about contract built into the salary of the police? What does that say about third-party vendors not being held to our calendar projections?
Okay, let me try to finish, Larry. I know that you're saying, what does it say? It's just an image of where it's going, what we've spent. If you can see a 5-year average, for instance, that they've only spent 70% of the budget, that means that no matter what's been projected, and we've got all of those, they've never spent what they've asked for. Okay? So that means they've been asking for about 30% more than they needed. I'm not saying that there couldn't be some adjustments, but that's a pretty clear image that, and I've got some in here that are like 20% average of what's been asked for. Now, you gotta look at each line when you're doing that. But the thing is it gives us an understanding of, if they're budgeting X and they're spending Y down here, then maybe X is too high, all right? Or now, if they're budgeting X and Y is up here, then they're budgeting too low, okay? That's why we have a 5-year average. I haven't got a formula that turns around and calculates all the cost increases, but we do know what the COLA has been, and they have a rough idea on what percentage of increase has been.
Okay.
So,
What does that mean? Right now, the school district has a 70% quarterly, 70 cents quarterly surplus on FICA. They self-correct every quarter. If we are using an exterior payroll system,
Okay, now
if they make
now I know what I'm
mistakes,
doing wrong.
they eat it. The federal
Lefty hand.
figure will control what FICA and Social Security are.
Right.
What?
so this, I've got it set up in here,
Yeah.
so that if you see that they're projecting this is the salary, this thing will calculate what the FICA is gonna be. In other words, what's Medicare gonna cost? What is it gonna cost for Social Security? What's it gonna cost for the fire department's retirement system? And what's it gonna cost for the police department system? Calculates that based on what the approved salaries are. Because that rate doesn't change. That rate will still be there.
What is the dollar figure that you get, and what is the importance of it?
It's important to figure out, Larry, that if I know what the salary is, I know how much the additional costs are gonna be in those other areas. Look, all right,
This,
let me try this another way.
Well-
I just want to try one more thing, Tom. They've given us a projected budget. I understand it's going to change. The town has given us a very clear direction. They did not approve the budget last year. So, in order to try to help this process, I turn around and put a spreadsheet based on what we were given from the town and says, here's what the averages have been based on what you projected for the last 5 years. Using that, we've got some percentages here that we can see what's been spent. So as a committee, we can go line by line to go, should they be getting, based on our best guess, should they get what they've asked for, or should we be making adjustments based on what their historical profile has been? Okay, and then yes, we have to take into account that there's some inflation, like we know fuel costs have gone up, we know other things have gone up, but it gives us an idea of what we can look at to say, what's our starting point to say whether or not we make cuts? Or whether or not we say, because there's some places in here where you go, you're not asking for enough money for that particular line item too, but because there's cuts in other places, they balance out.
and you're convinced that the formula is descriptive of today.
The formulas that I've got in here are only descriptive of what FICA, Medicare, and everything else is. What is definitely a profile here that's accurate is this is the average expenditures, percentage of expenditures based on what they've budgeted and what they've spent. Those numbers don't change regardless of what's happened as far as the COLA or anything else. They budgeted 100,000, they spent 90, that's a 90% rate. They budget 110 and spend 90, well, that's lower than 90%. It's about 84%. So you got an idea of what they've spent based on what they've asked for each and every year. That's what this is doing.
One point, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
You gotta figure, if you've got to know what each year, what took place, unemployment, people just kept
Yeah.
going out, and you've got to, you
gotta
have
know
to
that.
buy, have the budget,
Yeah.
for I need 8 officers. I got a budget for it, because somewhere down the line, I'm gonna get one or two.
Yeah, but when you, I think when you look at what and Humphrey said that you have to look at it line by line. You
Yeah,
can't just
throw
say.
one formula.
And
out
so
there.
therefore you look at and say, well, look, we're traditionally have been budgeting more for salaries than we should. Does that mean that you should decrease the salary line? It probably doesn't. It probably means that you are down an officer or two. You're down public works people. You're down people in town. That's probably, and that's why Dennis said you have to look at it line by line.
Yeah.
And I think most of us will agree that the big departments are running a fairly tight ship when it comes to their budgets. I think we've all looked at that fairly close, and I think we would all be in agreement that there may be a few dollars here and there that we might disagree on what they're asking for. But overall, I think we would agree that the big departments are probably where they need to be. We're very close to it.
And one of the things I did in keeping with that is under the police and fire, I looked at what did they ask for. Chief Marique asked for no increase. So if he's saying he needs this much money for a salary and he's not asking to increase his budget, I'm not going to question that. Because you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I know the same case for Chief Kraus. Chief Kraus is only asking for a 1% increase. The COLA is more than that. So as far as I'm concerned, he's asking for a very reasonable issue, and most of his has been the fact that he's been shorthanded 2 police officers is why his budget was under. So the answer, come back to yours, is it's just something to go by, and you still have to look at every line item to see, is that history because of shortages,
Yeah.
or is it for some other reason?
But
Do you, excuse me, do you have a running, written, reviewable record of what the answers were that you can look up on a piece of paper or on the computer? So
That's
when you,
part of what our issue is.
when the department head explains that the salary line is down because one officer was away for training for 16 weeks, represented no service to the town, that DPW is lost 2 employees that went for higher pay. Is that reflected in a citation you can bring up for today's discussion?
It's reflective of meetings we had over the summer with these guys.
Do you,
It's in minutes from meetings we had this summer.
do you look at,
Yeah.
can you bring them up and review them? And are they, do you bring that in to the discussion right now? Because if you've already agreed that the police department is down 1 officer, if you've already agreed that the DPW has lost 2 employees, 1 for CDL license, 1 took a better job, Justin, I think, is down in Portsmouth, then how are you going to address that in budget discussion right now? Say that we may not be that different. I don't care whether the FICA is 37 cents over or 37 cents under. It is always going to be part of the discussion. So if you tell me it's 90% used or 110% used, I want to know who was in the chair at that time. Did they quit, or did they go out and work as comp? Couldn't we fill the position? What I call the issues of area job competition and employee retention.
Well, I'm going to give you something for your understanding of why we want the formulas, because the FICA proposals are $1,550 lower than it's calculated when you use the actual formulas. That's a pretty good chunk of change, Larry. Going according to what they gave us for salaries, the percentages don't change. They're very proposals they gave us, it's over $1,500 off. That's a pretty good chunk of change.
Seriously, what does that mean?
It means that their projections of what they need for money is lower, is higher than, lower than what they were even gonna need to cover that.
What happens to that $1,500 in FICA?
It gets made up from somewhere else because
That's right,
there's
they
not
have to
enough.
steal it from another location.
So,
That's what he's saying, is that by the analysis that has been done, it was found out that the numbers that were calculated were incorrect.
Correct.
Some cases they were higher, some cases they were lower. In the case of FICA, which is basically your Medicaid and your Social Security combined, they were lower by $1,500. Where does that money come from? If that budget got passed exactly as it was, there's not enough allocated.
Right.
So, it's by nature of somebody looking at it like this that can come out.
did that happen
Yes.
last year?
It probably did. We didn't
Not
dig into the...
probably, did that happen?
The answer to that
last
is
year?
yes. If you want, you look at the numbers right now, Larry, I know you're trying to ask questions, but yes, that's why I brought this up. Because they are spending 125% of what was a default budget to cover FICA in some of these areas, because they didn't project the right amounts. And in other cases, they're paying less is because you don't have people. Paying more is because of the fact that you didn't calculate it right.
Especially in areas like FICA.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where Medicare and Social Security and retirement, those are known numbers that we have, since I've been on the committee, we've never dug into the budget to this detail, as far as I know. And what we're finding is that, hey, guess what? Maybe somebody should have, because if we had these numbers that are 25% overspent, maybe that would have been called. Maybe not. Maybe they're overspent because you had to spend more money to get somebody in to fill an urgent position such as the town administrator. That is a possibility. But the fact that we have never, since I've been on the committee, done this,
Yep.
that would be a reason why that is a possible explanation for a line being overspent.
By the way, this is a hard and fast thing. The Social Security for the town administrators area here is 225% over what was budgeted. They're spending their projected expenditures of $15,355, and they only budgeted $7,400. So that says that had to come out
No.
of someplace else.
Now, remember, part of that
I
is
know, because they had the contract,
the contract, and because they have got other people doing different functions, so they're moving money around.
but 225% is a lot more than the contract.
Yeah, but they've adjusted where people are getting paid from, though.
Yep.
That's part of that.
Yeah,
But-
it is.
But it is, looking at the numbers in the detail that some members are like this, highlights the fact that, hey, maybe we're not allocating enough. As Humphrey mentioned, when you look at how close Nick is carrying his budget, and Chief Kraus is 1% over last year. Maybe we need to suggest, Chief Kraus, we're going to increase your uniform line by $5,000. So you can,
But I want to just make one more point on the FICA part there, Tom. If you look at both both Social Security and Medicare, which is the combination, Medicare's at 92% going to be spent, and the Social Security's at 225. So the contract doesn't answer that question. They would be in line with one another if it was purely a contract issue. They are out of line because the percentages they use were wrong.
and that is very,
And that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
And I guess I don't understand, those percentages
Yeah.
have been in place for how many years now? New Hampshire retirement, I know, went down for
Yeah.
town employees, not for school
Well,
teachers,
not-
but
The police.
So-
but again,
And
Part of
I
it-
do know they use spreadsheets. Both Nick and Rich Kraus have their formulas built right in so you can see their spreadsheets. They showed us that.
Yeah.
And that's
No,
where I
know,
talked
I
with
know.
them because I wanted to understand what they were using too. That was
Yeah.
why I get back
Yeah.
to you. Because they've got some areas in there. See, if they're on NHRS, they are exempt from Social Security. So there were formulas the town was using saying that they have to pay Social Security, and no, they don't. Okay, full-time firefighters and full-time
they
police
don't.
officers are under the New Hampshire retirement system.
Right.
And the fire departments is different than the police
Yep.
for their percentages.
Okay, for 2019, neither one of those two departments were in any jeopardy
No,
as far as
Not at all.
FICA and
Yeah.
Medicare.
Nope.
So
Okay.
they're in
no,
the-
they're in the money. That's not
Yeah.
where the problems were.
Right.
That's right.
Let me do it again. $1,000 of very simple figures. $1,000 of salary. The feds want $100. We send 90. They come after us for the other $10. Same $1,000 in salary. The Fed wants 100. We send 110. What happens to that $10?
But I don't understand what
I
that has
have
to
no
do with
idea
how
what that
much
has to
money
do with
we're
this.
allocating, or how we're, and really, we're not allocating it here, we're figuring out, what we approve is the bottom line number, 4 million and something. We have to figure what these numbers are out to come up with that 4 million something. And what Humphrey is saying is that some of the numbers are not large enough. So that 4 million something should be 4 million plus something.
Okay.
That's what Humphrey's saying. And in some cases, the numbers are too big, so that 4 million plus something should be 4 million plus something minus a little bit.
Okay. And once again, $1,000 salary, $100 the feds want. We are only budgeting 90. We eat $10 from someplace else.
Exactly.
And let me add something, because I went a different route. When Humphrey and I met, it was clear what the route he was going. So I decided to go a different route. And what I discovered was that with the projections that we had to make, not that we were given,
Yeah.
Right.
projections we had to make, so those could change, I'll just clarify. We're gonna underspend by $447,000,
Yeah.
folks. So that, to me, is a more critical, okay? Especially when they're again asking for another $200,000 more in 2020. So I'll just throw that in the fire too. I'm looking at that number.
Exactly.
And I went through, gave them everything, the increase that they were looking for, right? But I based it on what they spent last year, gave them the increase, and we can take 6.5% out of that budget and still give them what they asked for
Yeah.
as an increase.
So to touch on Dennis's point, Larry, if you look right here, we had a default budget of $4.56 million. It's projected we're gonna spend 4.1 million.
Right.
That's a pretty big chunk of change, $400,000,
That's right.
okay? Now, I'm not saying that that's all wrong, because there are expenditures, that's why Dennis was talking about. There are expenditures coming up in the next 3 months that we don't know, because it's not just pure calculations.
We just
But we've got to
extrapolate.
look at that. That's where that's coming from. That's why this is just data to work with to help us try to project what we think they should spend.
Just the only thing is we haven't hit winter yet.
Right.
So we have to really account for that.
Things,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, which
Yep.
that, talking about the minutes, that's one of the things met with the highway department, I wasn't there,
Yep.
but that he did talk about was, he tries to hold a lot of his budget back for winter that occurs in, November on.
Those are the
Sometimes it
lines we
occurs
gotta
in
look at.
October.
Yeah, those are the ones we gotta look at.
And the reason for part of the difference may be, I think we were down officers for part of the year. That's gonna be a big chunk of why
We've
you
got
got
two
money left
full-time
over,
officers, yes.
right? So that's gonna be a big chunk of it.
Yeah, sure.
Right,
But
so,
without that, I'll bring it up one more time, because I still
Yeah.
haven't got
We haven't got
clarification
answers
what
then.
we're gonna do yet. But if we had that spend plan, we wouldn't be guessing.
and I met with Ernie and Danielle was working on it.
Awesome,
That was the word that I had on Friday,
awesome.
so.
But $450,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't really think we're off by that much with the prediction. So there's really something serious to look at with respect to the underspending. Because historically, by the way, our average underspend is somewhere in the 85%, somewhere in there. 86.99%.
85% of the budget, of the proposed budget. on
Underspend
average.
on average since 2015, 87%.
Yeah, 87%, right.
13% roughly underspent. And if we do that year over year, no wonder our tax rate is, I won't say spiraling out of control, but it's cumulative. It just keeps building on itself. And unless we take the fat out, you're not gonna stop it. I've said my piece. My 5 hours this afternoon working on this spreadsheet, that's what I came up with.
But again, I would caution, remember, we've been down, I don't know that we've had a full complement of employees for an entire year. since
But,
I've been down.
but you know what? You're right. Historically,
Yeah.
we haven't. And you know what that says? We're not going to later on either.
But
because
does that
the-
mean that we shouldn't try to have a
No.
full complement?
No, I'm not looking to take money away from,
No.
that
We
type of
just-
thing. But what we've got to look at is where we've historically spent 25, 30% of what's budgeted in a lot of other areas. Okay?
And,
You know? Or like I said, we've historically spent much higher value. Okay? There's some items in here that are definitely got to be upped too, because we don't have enough to cover it. You know? But I think overall, there is no reason for the budget to be anywhere near the projection that we've got right now. It's going to be a lot lower than what this projection is.
Well, I came up with a number. Anybody want to hear the number?
What number did you come up with?
They're asking for 4.714. My number is 4.267.
I'm right in about that same area, roughly about 4.2 to 4.3 at the most.
Now, again, all these adjustments we're talking about, that we're gonna have to go find out,
Yep.
figure those all out, get them from the departments and work them back in these numbers. We'll adjust that number. But that's too much of a difference to just kinda,
Yep.
we'll see it by the end of the year.
But what that also shows is it'd be about $300,000 under what the default budget was last year.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
$150,000 more.
Yeah.
Now, on that, Tom, when do you know when we're supposed to get the information back
I
from
do not.
the board?
I do not. We're in a holding pattern right now, waiting for them to. The gist of it was they were at almost loggerheads with each other. There were three different opinions as to the direction that they should go. They did seem to be fairly on board with no additional full-time employees. So that did seem to be I take that back.
Shift in here.
Not building into the budget any full-time employees, putting any full-time positions on warrant articles so that the people can vote on them separately from the budget. Which
What?
is,
Can you
What's
say
that?
that again?
any new additional full-time positions will be proposed in, what they had talked about was proposing those in warrant articles, not
What the town.
building it into the budget. So then you let then that kind of makes sense. So if you have we want to have a full-time pool cleaner and we want to have a full-time custodian that's going to rake the roof, the people can decide if we really want to have our roof raked. We don't care about the full-time pool cleaner because the pool's closed 6 months of the year anyway. So that lets the people truly decide rather than building both of them into the budget. And so your choice is either all or none. And people that, don't want the full-time employees, they're going, no, I don't want that. I really don't want that. So I'm going to vote for the default that doesn't have that in it. So that, I think, was the consensus that they had. The other stuff, there was absolutely no consensus that I could see in their workshop. So kind of like us here, I don't know that we got a real clear consensus with
Well,
us
it's kind
here.
of tough to have a consensus till we know what the numbers are going to be.
Exactly. And that's why I don't really feel like we need to concentrate on actual numbers in the spreadsheet yet. Talking about strategies and ideas, which is what we're sort of doing here now. That's a good thing to hash all that out, I think. And I think it's a good idea to look at, hey, where have we been historically? With the caveat that yes, we do need to find out, hey, this salary line traditionally, hey, we've been underspending 30% in salary. Why? Well, that's because we've never had a full complement of people in town. Maybe we have. I don't know.
But that right there, okay, we've asked some questions that we still, and you know that. I mean, I asked questions in that meeting on September 14th. Tell me the number of employees. Haven't got an answer on that yet. Okay, I mean, not even the number of employees on some of these things. We have not gotten answers to any of the questions from that meeting. We never got updates. we get an updated spreadsheet, I'm more than happy to turn around and do the lookup of expenditures and show what those projections will be. I mean, it takes me about a half a day to a day to get that. But I think we're gonna need that to really be able to see a good picture of this.
The only thing, Mr. Chairman, that multi-one that you sent out to us is September 30th, there was changes in the town administrator's budget. He lowered his legal
Yep.
services and straightened
Yeah.
out one of
Yep.
the line, actually two other lines.
Yeah, but again.
I know, I
yeah.
realize that, but
Yeah, that's, some of that changed. He took the input that, I forwarded the input that, where we found, this formula isn't right. That all got
Yes.
sent back to him. They updated, but again, I spent some time looking at it, and then I thought, but, why, when it's gonna change based on what the Board of Selectmen decide they want to give to us. So, right now, we are in a severe holding pattern until that happens.
But here's one thing that won't change, the history.
Right.
Yeah,
And what
no,
they've spent, the percent,
Yeah.
we've got that to go by, so we got an idea of at least even before we know the numbers, we know what historically they've been spending percentage-wise. So it gives you an idea when you go to see the new budget. If they've been spending 30% less on some of these, I mean, I've got some in here, 56%. Is 5-year average of 56%. I got one here at 5-year average of 8.7%. It's not hard to see that budget better not go up.
Yeah.
Because historically, they haven't even been
And
close,
again,
you know?
Ours
those that
is
are
one.
like that, the
Yeah.
question will
Mine
be,
is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the question would be, hey, we see vast discrepancies in these lines. Explain why we're not spending
Yeah.
them. And maybe there's a good reason. Maybe that is the emergency line for replacing light bulbs in our exit signs, and we haven't had any light
Well,
bulbs
that'd be a
burn
good
out.
explanation as opposed to just giving us a job description, which is all we got when we said,
Well-
what's the justification for some of these increases?
I-
And all we got was a job description.
I
It's not a
asked,
justification.
I asked about that, and he wasn't sure what else. He said that's what he was given. He's not sure what else he can do.
Well, here's a good, for instance, when you go back and talk to him. Okay, what additional work is
But-
being done now, or what's being done
I-
differently
again-
today that would constitute needing more money and more people?
Again, we'll see what is presented in the budget that's
Yeah.
given to us from the selectmen, because, as I said, they seemed fairly convinced that full-time positions were not something necessarily required, and partly for the same reason that we were saying, where's the data to show, are there other ways that we can accomplish the same goals?
Yeah, like
Am
changing hours
I
here and there.
confused,
That was
or
mentioned.
are we not supposed to
My
be
line.
compiling our own budget independent of the selectmen? And then comparing notes and negotiating essentially
That's pretty
a
much-
final budget,
that's
right?
what's gonna pretty
Okay,
much
well,
be.
I'm not waiting for we can't sit around and wait for the selectmen to decide what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
We'll find that out when they present their budget to us and we present ours to them, right?
We're
Isn't
gonna
that
get
how
some
it's
more.
supposed to work?
Mr. Brown?
Historically, the Budget Committee has had, no disrespect intended, historically, the Budget Committee has had no staff. We do not have a number cruncher. We do not have someone to do typing. We do not have someone to run the pieces of paper through the machine. We do not have someone to send that piece of paper off to DRA. We are using the staff, time, and resources of the town administration to prepare their operating budget, their proposed budget, their default budget, and the official budget of the Budget Committee, because we have no staff. And so we should have a line to pay the town staff. That's only cheerful sarcasm.
Well,
But to do that work, if we are really preparing a budget rather than coming around and mopping up errors plus and minus, which is what bluntly we're doing.
All right, well, I'm gonna
And
be very blunt too,
No.
Larry. It's their job to help, to prepare the budget. It's our job to analyze it and determine whether or not it's appropriate.
No, we
That's
prepare,
what,
we prepare the official budget.
after everything's
That's-
all
yeah,
worked
but-
out, that's correct.
but prior to that, we have a commitment to produce a budget from the Budget Committee that is then compared and merged with the selectmen's budget to come up with that final budget, correct?
Right.
That's what that's what we're
We're trying to
attempting
do.
to try to do here. And I kind of take a little bit of an exception. We don't have the staff because I don't know how much time have you spent on it last month?
Weeks.
Yeah. And
Weeks.
and we can build the spreadsheets. We can do the work. We have all the talent right here on this table to do just that. So we don't need to have a lot of the time from, unless they want to make copies of something. We're working the numbers here.
Yeah,
so.
and Larry, I'll tell you, the only thing I've asked for the town was they gave us the current expenditure and they gave us the budgeted proposal. I did the rest of it. So I didn't ask them to go back and do all the calculations. I took what's out there for formulas, put them in here, and let it do the calculations for me after I got through. So I didn't ask them to do any more than that their job is. And that's to give us what they've got for a proposed budget, what they've had for expenditures to date, and the rest went in here.
Do I understand correctly that there is, in a small town, it's difficult to talk about a position and not a person. The plan is to, you either bring someone in who is not familiar with the town, which is a good thing or a bad thing, or to promote and transfer within and to develop in-house talent. That seems to be the position, initial position of the town, with a staff available from the Recreation Commission and with a line item in training for the building inspector to develop a future building inspector, presumably with such safeguards in place that if you skip town, you owe us X amount of your salary for us being good guys to hire you in the first place. Same thing for the other position, which is there's another for the town and tax. I remember Michelle came on board trying to provide greater number of hours of service to the town, being open on one Saturday, being open on one evening. That seems to be the ball in play, whether those hours are sufficient, whether those are too many hours, whether or not a second person is necessary, or whether or not it's a bologna sandwich she built herself. Is that a fair flip description?
Essentially, that's what has been presented in the budget that was presented in September, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And
Just checking.
And those two positions are what they were talking about turning into warrant articles and removing from the budget. That way the people, and that
was last night's discussion.
that was last night in the workshop is what I gathered from the workshop. Unfortunately, it's not recorded, so you can't go back and do it at your given pleasure. But the gist of it was nobody seemed to be in favor of building those positions into the budget versus having a warrant article. Because what you're doing is you're going to have a budget that is much greater than default. People are going to say, that number is bigger than this number, I'm going to go for the small number. And in some cases are going to say, I don't think we need these positions, I'm going to vote for the default because it's not there. If you take those positions out, put them in warrant articles, separate ones, then people can say, this budget looks reasonable, it is the same as what it was last year, or it is 1% higher. I will vote for that because everybody's in agreement that's what it should be. And then they can vote separately on, they can say, yes, I really think we need to have a building inspector. I'm going to vote to have that new position. I don't know that we need to have, town clerk. I only go in there once a year to register my car. I've never had to wait. I don't think we need that. Or I register 18 cars a day. I really hate waiting in there, and I've never had a building permit, so I don't want the building inspector. That will let people vote like that when they break it out.
There's also another look to come back to address your comment. A lot of times they're sitting there saying you're working additional hours to try to catch up, paperwork-wise. Okay, maybe instead of 8 hours a day and then working overtime, you only keep the town hall open for 6 hours a day and it gives them 2 hours to do the paperwork. I don't think that's going to cripple anyone here in town coming in. And that was one of the proposals. So rather than pay overtime, you give them more time to get the official paperwork done.
That was a suggestion
That was,
Last
that's
night as
just
well.
one of the comments. I mean, you can adjust those types of things. That's what's done in other towns I've lived in. You know?
Well, it's-
Salaried employees do not get overtime, so.
No, but there are other people that are making up, or they've had to work the extra hours. They may not be making more money, but they've had to work extra hours and cut that back somehow. But they're looking to get more people. Sometimes that's the case. Maybe you don't need more people, you just need more time to get some of the other things done without customers.
Now, just one point here,
Yep.
what Dennis said, we could put this budget together, and either we would sit with the selectmen, if they don't agree with it, then when it comes to recommendation, they'll refuse it, we'll probably accept it.
Yep.
That's how you have your recommendations.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wait till we get something back to project it, right.
Yeah.
There's no reason for us not to have it, and then if we see this in major changes, we make adjustments
we make
accordingly.
adjustments.
I've gone as far as to put together, at the department level, a recommended budget.
I have two, and I've shifted it two or
Using the
three different
numbers
times.
that we came across.
Yeah.
Completely unofficial. I'm not suggesting that it's anywhere near complete.
And you're right, Dennis, and Tom, I know I've taken over some of this, but in looking at formulas, there is no set formula based on, that I can run down saying, here's what
Yeah.
that budget should be, because again,
If
you've
it
got
was,
some
it'd be
people that have
easy.
inflated budgets, and I'm gonna be blunt, I'm not gonna say who, what, where, but some people inflated budgets where others kept it pretty even. I'm not gonna argue with the person that's kept it even a cut, but I'm gonna argue some if it's blown out of proportion, And maybe there's justification for some of that, that's why we look at them line item and line item by line item, so.
What came clear in looking at the average spending
Yep. Percent.
profile over the past 5 years, or since 15, was that we have a tendency to build on the
Previous,
last
Yeah.
budget.
regardless,
You
yeah.
don't- and I've said it from day one, before even the budget committee, where's the expenditure reports that go along with this budget request? Because all they show you is the last 5 budgets. Okay, you can't base a new budget on last year's budget. It's got to be based on your spending. So when I went through this, and how I came up with a recommended was I went back and I said, okay, let's say that all of the new request is for legitimate line item increases. So I gave them all the increases that they were asking for by department, but I added it to what was spent last year, not on their budget. And I came up with $500,000 difference.
Yep.
It's dramatic. It
One
really
department,
is
and
when
I
you
won't
look
get
at
into the
it.
department. The budget approved in 2015 was 273,000. What was spent was 226,000. So then they did lower, I'll give them credit, they lowered the default budget, but it's still $48,000 above. Was it 268 and they only spent 210? Okay? So then they increased that, after spending less, they increased that over the previous one, back up to 273 and spent 245. So if you start looking at it going, every year was an increase but one, and that one, they spent even less. So when their hands are tied a little bit on what they can and can't spend, it slows them down on some of the spending. Okay, and I know that from government history, when we all fought not cutting back, but when we cut back, we found out where we were spending money we didn't have to.
I think we've beaten this horse pretty well.
We have.
Yeah, that's,
We have.
that's what I was
Well, I
saying.
think it's
It's important,
laying
though.
the groundwork, I
Yeah.
think is
Yeah.
what we're trying to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I
Now-
understand, but I think we hit it pretty
We-
well.
Well, now we,
I completely agree with you.
something that's come up is not waiting for the selectmen to present, for them to have their budget. Us presenting, coming up with what we think a reasonable budget should be. I'm thinking that's not something we want to do piecemeal, going off doing it. I'm thinking if we wanted to pursue that, that's something we need to take a Saturday and do.
Let's do it.
Now, do we want to get confirmation that they are removing these full-time positions, or do we just want to take our best stab at what we think would be prudent for the town?
I'll tell you right now,
Yep.
if they're gonna remove some key increases, I think we ought to know that, but,
We won't know it until.
you know, but,
No.
but I still think we can do, besides the salaries, we can do the other parts of it.
Okay, one thing, if there's a change in the budgets of any kind, the town administrator should be sending it right to you right away, so we can make the computations here. Because I remember when Bruce Woodruff was chair, he sent out 14 emails, one after another, and that computer of mine was going crazy. They were changing the budgets, they were sending it to us, so now we can put the new numbers into, well, your spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And it gives us a better idea where they're heading for. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Because we can,
No.
it's up to you, Mr. Chairman, but the thing is, if there's any changes they make, shouldn't be made at the last minute, because that catches us right on.
Yeah.
And
Well,
are they
again-
also still planning on having a joint meeting with us? I know that was the other
Yeah,
thing, because
we-
time was gonna be a joint meeting, is that, because that can also make a difference here.
Well, I thought that was the meetings that we were going to have after the two of us
We were
put
gonna
our
do something
budget
for the
suggestions
captains.
together, if you will. And the meetings would
Well,
be subsequent to that.
We were, that's kind of what we thought, but they didn't get they weren't ready for it. I'll just put it that way. So the other thing that we're starting to get faced with is time pressure, because we're gonna be running out of time. We gotta worry about the school too. So, you know, the town budget's fairly small, the school's a little bit more complicated of a budget. So, you know, and it's roughly twice what the town is. So we need to probably spend as much time as we're spending here on the school budget as well.
Well, I asked for the school budget while I here, and they said they didn't have it yet.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yes.
But that notwithstanding, are there any dates when people would feel like they could get together and meet at a location to be determined, hopefully where we have to have a screen wherever it's at. I'll find a,
What are you looking for, Mr. Chairman? A date to sit down on the budgets, or?
yeah, it sounds like, what I'm hearing is that, yes, we can get our first pass cut on what we think a reasonable budget is, with, starting from what we got, the latest that we've gotten from the town. And use that as a starting point for where we think a good direction would be to go, in establishing a, this is our being, the budget committee's cut on the budget.
Okay, one thing though, if we make any changes, we gotta notify them, so they'll know that they have to make changes, okay? It's a two-way
Yeah.
street. You know, if we
And-
cut anything, like tonight possibly, but we have to let them know, so there's good communication, otherwise we're gonna run right into a
Yeah,
program.
but see, but that's where I think, I don't believe any of the lines are gonna have drastic cuts. Probably a lot of lines are gonna have, lots of lines are gonna have cuts, but nothing,
Nothing.
we're not taking 90% out of a line, I don't think.
It sounds to me like most of what's being cut would be a salary type of thing.
The
Not saying
majority of
salary
what they-
people, but it
what they
sounded
hit-
like
salary
positions,
numbers.
Yeah.
salary
Yeah,
numbers.
which work down into, you know, they propagate.
Yeah.
So, from the town's point of view, that's
Yep.
what it sounded like.
My
So-
suggestion would be to find out if we could use the fire department's meeting room if possible, because they've got the screen and everything else there.
The problem is we can't be recorded there.
Yes, I would like to have this recorded.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think we should be recorded wherever
Yeah.
we're at.
I think last night was a missed
Yeah.
opportunity for the selectmen. They shut everybody out except for you people who were here. I left because I thought I was gonna see it on the video, and then I found out they killed it.
Yeah, we can take the recording equipment down there if we decided we wanted to have it
Okay.
down there. Yeah, oh, we
Yeah.
take it to school. We
Yeah.
take it to.
Yeah, it can be recorded.
Engineer,
It
that's
can
our
be
engineer.
recorded. It can be
I
recorded.
have to ask Mr. Brown if he can bring his tripod.
A tripod.
I'll bring a tripod.
The point is, reciprocity is not obligatory. Several years ago, I guess Bob and I don't think you were on board, was Bruce, might,
Bruce was 2014.
you might have been chair.
No,
and,
I was chair in 2015.
whatever. Those of us who were there, younger, we sat down with the selectmen and were playing a game of goodwill ping pong, if that phrase makes sense. The figure was $100. You're showing 110. We're showing 90. Should it be 100? And at that time, the figures for both sides were clicked in, and the selectmen's budget and the budget committee budget were basically identical. That's not something that the budget committee needs to do if you have the firepower to put together the multiple entries and with the magic of thumb drive or whatever you're calling it at the moment, put that into categories so it can become a legal, printable document as the official budget of the budget committee. You also, through the magic of electrons, can run two scenarios. If it is the consensus of the budget committee that you support the idea of taking free money from the Recreation Commission to fund part of a building inspector in training, but do not agree that the tax collector is unable to make adjustments for the running of the office, then you can set up a budget that funds one and not the other, and decide that. Because if the numbers are that easy to plug in, it's not like sending the cold chisel back for a new hardening, because the stone is getting harder.
Mr. Chairman, if you look at your PowerPoint, the 2019 budget, that was mine that I put in there. That worksheet was
Yep.
mine. And that's the one I submitted to Joanne for the MS 737. That was the only document that was available.
Yep.
If you remember, Ryan didn't want to meet. He says, why should
Yep.
we meet?
Yep.
Okay, that was a total, that never happened before. And he said, it's our budget, it goes to them. Now, I wanted to have a meeting with them, but they didn't show up. We were here.
Yep. Well, that goes to the point that's been raised about us having our own budget and making it, okay, this is what we believe is, and then take the input from the selectmen and say, okay, where are they higher, where are they lower? If they want to come defend their choices, they could. We can take that approach if that is what the committee wants to do.
If the choke point, okay, in terms of Joanne, to pick on her, she's not here, is non-existent, and the capacity is to, on the MS, what number is it?
737.
60, I only remember 61, which is that's the tax clerk, okay. If those numbers can be put into the legal document that goes to the public hearing, it goes off to DRA, and is properly reflective of expenses, ...
Yeah, we have all the data we need to do that. We've got, that's all in the budget that Ernie presented that is up on our Google thingy. So, it shall now forever be known as the Google thingy.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
So we've got that. I mean, we can, and that's what I'm saying is that if it is the desire of the committee to pursue our own budget, I think we're getting to the point where we can't wait till our next regularly scheduled meeting to do this. We're going to have a meeting. And I would prefer a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon somewhere that we can meet. But I am more than willing to entertain such a motion if somebody was to.
Well, lunch forces you to finish?
Or at dinner. It's either one.
The only thing is, I want to make sure we do see their figures to see how, if we're really
Yeah.
close or far. I still want to see their figures.
Oh yeah.
But we can
I'm not saying.
This
But
isn't final. This is nothing final
Yeah.
on this at this point.
Yeah, no,
anyways.
no, this is
Yeah.
all
Yeah, but
just
I just want to
kind
make
of trying to piece the story
Yeah.
together. And I think, at least from my perspective, I think I've been able to piece it together. And Humphrey and I shared, what each other has been doing, and we've even done more. So I think we're ready to share and,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah,
try
I-
to put something together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
give it a
but
shot,
I
see what
think
happens.
it's, you know, we can't wait, we have to have
No.
a meeting between now and then.
100%.
Here's the thing, if we don't do something now, we turn around and try to have that one meeting in September to accelerate this and get it done early. At the rate we're going, we're not gonna get it done.
Yeah.
Right.
So, do I have a motion
I'll make a motion
to,
that we have a meeting to put together our own projected budget.
I'll second it.
Yeah, well, we need a
Okay.
date on that.
what's that?
We need a date.
Not
So we
yet.
can figure that out.
Yeah.
We can-
Okay, we got a,
See, November 4th.
motion and a
is-
second.
No, okay.
Well,
That's where okay, are we in discussion?
yeah, we're in discussion.
Okay,
We're in discussion.
Okay.
We discussed it, now we're gonna discuss it some more.
okay,
I think I saw the tail twitch.
okay. I know that, I think we're supposed to meet October 28th,
26th.
26th?
Yeah.
Okay, 26th.
Sorry, I got my calendar open already.
Okay, good.
See, it's still not enough time to put all this stuff together. We do have a final one, November 4th. It's gonna take time. It's like you said, Mr. Chairman, they just did theirs last night, but that's not final.
They haven't,
They're just,
they didn't, there were no numbers discussed last night.
Okay.
It was a discussion with the three of them, the town administrator and the recording secretary up here talking about, hey, I don't think I'm in favor of that. I think we should throw everything in it. I don't think we need to do this. We need to pare it down to bare bones and just salary adjust. That's the kind of discussions it was. And
okay,
with directions to the only thing I heard come out of it was directions to the town administrator to remove the new full-time positions. That was the only firm direction that I recall hearing. So,
That-
you know, honestly, I'm getting a touch concerned. But,
Well, we don't.
So-
we can move ahead, just like you said.
Yeah, that's-
With spending the right kind of
Yep.
time on this, we can move ahead and leave them in the dust if they want to argue. But we can get something done relatively quickly, I believe.
yeah.
I
you
would
know,
think,
we
you
can
know
do
what,
this in
I don't think it'd take that long once we
No.
go through and try to just
Okay, our,
work on the spreadsheet.
did Mr.
So you're looking for
Yes, yes.
Saturday.
Did you include a date on that motion?
no,
No.
there is no date. This is
No,
just,
no
we're gonna
date,
do it.
no date necessary.
26th?
When that comes, again, to use that mythical $1,000, we have $1,000 in payroll for police, $1,000 in payroll for DPW. Police says they're down 30 for unfilled positions. DPW is down $20 on FICA for unfilled positions. There's $50 that is too much paid out. Are you certain that that money, the 400,000, 500,000, whatever it was, represents money that got paid to FICA? Or did it vanish because the lines just were not there and the money got absorbed in another category? You want a better question?
No, well, Mr. Chairman, I saw
Can
on,
you bring that into the discussion?
We actually have a
we can.
breakdown on every line item on what was spent, so you know where the $400,000 amounts to, because you can see every line on what the projected expenditures were, and you see every line on what they've been for the last 5 years, so you know where it was missing,
And where did it
or
go?
where it was overspent.
Where did it
Well,
go?
but it's
That's-
really,
that
it's,
would-
Back to the
it's
town.
it's monies that, it's not that they're not, it's not overspent, it is, these are extra monies, is what they're saying. That, based on projections, should be there if everything follows suit, which, as you pointed out, there are probably some salaries built into that, some other stuff,
Combination, yes.
right?
Where did that, when we meet, where did that money go? You just said back to the town.
Well,
Where did-
into the
Well,
general fund. If
It-
they underspent, it went back into the general
Is
fund.
that a good thing or bad?
By the way, what Dennis and I were talking about hasn't even been, this is projected, nothing's gone anywhere
and,
yet.
and I can show you, just as something said, I can show you line item by line item, what's been, where the underspentness, if that's,
I
okay?
like, that's a good word.
Yes.
Lies, and I can show you every single line item and what they've spent, what's projected to be spent at the end of the year, based on the information we have. right? And I can show you department by department, I can show you line item by line item, where the underspent is.
So that 400 is a projected
Right,
by the end of the year. Now, we know that there are some expenses that probably haven't come in yet, like salt and sand and maybe oil and,
Some of the
you know, there may be some salaries in there. We understand that, but, you know, based on,
Well, salaries are pretty straightforward, but you're right. But as contracts or any of the others, I mean, there's gonna be some money spent that's not accounted for in here because we don't have that data, Henderson
Yeah.
asked for,
Yeah.
on how it's gonna be spent in the next 3 months. 2.5
Okay.
months.
Well,
So,
we have a motion on the floor to have a second meeting to hash out a budget that we believe is
Yes.
prudent based on our currently known information.
Move the question, aye.
All right, all those in favor of having such a meeting at a date yet to be determined?
absolutely.
All those opposed? Chair votes aye. Mr. Brown, did I hear a?
Oh, I said, I move the question, aye.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay, it is unanimous. We all vote that we will have a special meeting to hash out what we believe is a good direction for the budget to go and possibly end up with a budget.
Just figure out
Okay.
the meeting time in the next day or so.
Can we do that? Can we get some suggestions anyway, and we can,
Okay, I would prefer
You said Saturday.
personally, I would prefer a Saturday, either morning or
Fine.
afternoon.
That's fine.
That
I know
leaves
there's
us,
gonna be
looks
this-
like,
I can't do it
every day Saturday
We
for me?
don't really have, yeah.
You're busy every day Saturday?
No, every day
Every
is
day
Saturday.
is Saturday to me.
When we're
Yeah, no,
tired.
you don't really need to rub that in. I think I'm the only one here that has somewhere to go every day.
We have places to go, and we go often.
Yeah, you don't have places you absolutely have to go.
Fun times, right?
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Sherry's not happy.
At the table here, there's two of us, Sherry, we're outnumbered. Okay, we have the 26th, which I think is a touch quick because we got to get notices out and all that. And we got to see where we can meet. We got the 2nd and the 9th. Going past the 9th, we might be
I
pushing
think there
it.
needs to be
Crazy.
one of those two.
Now,
Just-
what are we gonna do about the selectmen? We have one November 4th, but supposedly joint meeting there.
I would,
Mr. Chair,
I'd
pardon the
shoot.
interruption, the weekend of the 9th is Veterans Weekend.
Oh.
I do not believe you'll have a lot of
Yep, okay.
people, I'm just,
All right, no, that's a good point. Thank you very much. So,
I would
How
shoot
about
for
the
the
second?
second.
okay, and actually, if we end up with a joint meeting on the 4th,
that's
which
good.
I think we had said, then we may have something to actually talk about with the selectmen on the 4th.
Is that in stone on the 4th?
That was
In
a
stone and
projection.
I understand.
It's as
that.
much as
Just
stone
like
as the
any
last.
other
yeah,
selectmen
yeah,
meeting.
exactly. Yeah, what they said.
So should I etch it into my stone
It's
here?
in sandstone.
I would
Sharpen
use,
the
I would
chisel,
use
whatever.
soft calcium.
Soft
Soft calcium,
calcium. Got it.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
Mr. Brown.
May I have one more lash on that famous horse? 2018, projected FICA, 2018 dollar FICA. Do you have those?
What was spent, yeah. Yes, we
What was
did.
the, what was the difference?
For the total? I'll tell you in a second.
Wait a minute, tobacco.
I'm going to the finals for 2018.
Was there some total?
Well, actually, you have to go look at each line item. I can tell you what it is on each line item. I can't tell you what the total is because it doesn't have total FICA in that thing without going to each line item. But I can tell you what they were in different areas. And we could calculate that out. Let's put it this way. It was, just in the town administrator, it was $7,118 budgeted. It was $6,473 expended for Social Security. It was $1,665 for Medicare and $1,511 spent. That's just one department.
Okay. And you have historic data for the changes in the line?
I have, well, you show what that's all, it's
I
based
can-
on what the salaries are. The full-time projected salary was $107,882. There was an elected stipend of $6,930. They spent $103,469.94, and they spent $65,3022. That's how it calculated out. So,
I can give you 2015's numbers if you want to.
yep, we can look at every one of them, because we've got all of that in here.
Are they 100% spent?
They
were
all
underspent.
They were all underspent.
Underspent, and then something
Yeah.
has occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you want to go by that line item alone, I can tell you historically what it was, percentage spent, right here. And that'll help. So, since 2015, Social Security was spent at 92% of projected budget. In 16, 79% of projected budget. In 2017, 87% of the projected budget. In 18, 91% of the projected budget. And this year, 225% of the projected budget, which is more than all of the others combined spent in one year. So,
Something is amiss.
Well,
Yes.
if you look at your ledger that came out in the September 30th, the September 30th, there is a line there on the FICA line. If you look at your expenditure
Yeah.
report from September to up to date, there's almost a $8,000 difference.
oh,
Big
8,000
spread.
over, right.
Yeah.
And if you want to skew data, if you took that 225% out, it says that they have on average been about 86%, 87%.
I would just take
But
it back a
but
little
by
bit.
averaging it now, it's 114% because of this year.
I take it back. There was $6,900. If you see it,
Yeah.
it's tax due
Yeah.
on the FICA line. It's tax
Now-
due.
Now, we have had some nasty grams from the IRS, potential fines because of things not being paid when they should.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
believe they have gotten all of that
Yeah.
ironed out, so
Yep.
that we, I think he said he had one more paper to file.
Yep.
And no fines will be due, so
That was administrative kind of.
Yeah.
but I'm
Issues,
not
right?
sure if it was because we weren't paying FICA the
think
way
it
we
was.
should.
Yeah.
I just know it was something from the IRS, and
Mm-hmm.
the big thing I can think of is you're not paying your Social Security or your Medicare right, is why the IRS will come after you, so.
All
that may-
all the more reason to be as accurate as you can be
Yeah.
when you're calculating this out.
But
Yeah.
that may be the reason. Right now, I'm looking at the one we have in front of us. It's the October one, and it's now 11,703. So it may be that that includes what they had to pay the
Maybe. And that's
IRS.
assuming that's what it was. I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to
Phew.
target November 2nd for our meeting because the 9th is Veterans Day. I will see if we can meet either here or at I will talk to Chief Meek, see if we can use their conference room in the fire hall.
Or we need a projector or something we can do.
Yeah, well, I think he's got a projector. He's got. I
No,
think
he
he's got
does, but I'm
TV.
saying if we're doing
Yeah.
it here, we'd have to
Yeah,
have a
I'll
way
see
to
what I can
project.
do to arrange a projector.
We can pick up a 65-inch and a HDMI cable.
You could do that too. Tom, you want to go buy one?
Well, I mean, you could sit right here.
No, we
turn-
can do
put
it either way.
right
You
there.
could have
and-
you could have a
Yeah.
TV screen we
Right.
do too.
But we'll talk to, hopefully be able to get into the fire department. I'll bring the recording equipment
Yep.
so it can be seen on. We will target the
Because
2nd.
they do have a
Okay.
TV screen
Yep.
there for that purpose.
We got a time.
What
I just
time?
have 9 to 4.
9 to 4?
Why not?
That's fine.
9 o'clock?
Okay.
9 o'clock until we're done?
9 o'clock sounds ducky.
All right, 9 o'clock on the 2nd of November.
And public is welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a meeting that day, but
Encourage.
I will, if you record it, I will watch it.
It will be recorded
It will
one
be
way or another.
recorded.
Our one public will be there.
Yeah, our one public. You have broken the record, I believe.
Yes, you have.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
been here
Consecutive
more
meetings.
meetings than any other member of the public I can
Actually,
remember.
been more meetings than Larry had
Or-
this year, and he's on the budget committee.
And she's not without paperwork. I gave her a packet. I put, we
All right,
got.
great.
And
Okay.
sucking
Just
it
one
all
more,
in,
just one more
I-
though.
All right. I think that we have pretty much beat
Oh my gosh.
number 5 to death.
Yeah.
That horse has stopped twitching. The tail is still, and its eyes are closed.
What? What would you like, honey?
Okay. Let's
we
see.
beat 6 to
And
death, too.
responses to questions. I don't know how much we got to review there. When I went back and I expressed our dissatisfaction to Ernie about the responses that we got, it really wasn't what we were after. You know, I told him that, when you want new positions, stuff like we've had a 30% year-over-year increase in building permits. We've had, a 25% year-over-year increase in complaints of something.
We've
And
had
that
more
means-
we've averaged more registrations
Yeah,
or more,
and he said he did not think that they had that type of information to be able to give us for justification.
Well,
Which was the biggest thing that we were missing. The expenditures, he said that was in the sheet. We're working on getting a better more up-to-dated, which the expenditure, last one we got was effective, I think, Friday. It was the same one that she gave the select.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Chairman, that answers a lot of my questions.
And like I said, the things that I think we had a lot of questions about were around adding hours and
Yes.
positions.
Yep.
And they may be being taken out from the select.
Although I still want to know how many people we're talking about that are getting these raises. You know, I mean, we asked that question about the library, you know, you got the rec and things like that. Who's getting what? You know, when I see 50% increase, you know, projected in salary, I would like to know a lot more than, oh, by the way, here's the job description.
I'd like to know if there's
Yeah,
one open.
Yeah, is this a new position? You know, what is it, you know?
Maybe I'll have someplace to go during.
Yeah. All right, so I will, the question was, how many positions do we have in town? Do we want to know that by department?
Oh, well, I want to know based on just what we've had for the salary increase. In other words, you've got increases at rec, and because I'm not picking on whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent. We have increases at the rec, we had increases at the town clerk's office, we had increases at assessing, we had increases here at the planning. I mean, you go down the line, highway, everything. Okay, how many people are we talking about when we're seeing these increases? You know, what kind of percentage increase are we talking about? Because I'm seeing things like 26 to 50% increase on these line items, and I'm going, is that one person?
I think some of that is the new positions. Part of that is
That needs to be explained.
if we can, when we get
Yeah.
what they pulled out, I think
Yeah.
you'll see those numbers go down.
Yeah, but again, that's the type of thing that I think we still need to know, because, I mean, I can remember at the meeting that, in the library,
Right.
when they says, we get 8 people. Okay, well, what are these 8 people getting? I don't care about names, it's just, what are they getting, you know?
Well, I know last year when they presented their budget and it was, you know, the increase, and some of them were, I mean, it was, okay, 2% COLA, great, but they're going up 45%
Yeah.
because, oh, well, you know, I gave them this kind of a raise and that kind of a raise, and it started July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How can you possibly figure that out?
Okay, the only thing is, some of these people have not been getting any pay at all. You got somebody coming right in from the street, $16 an hour, and this person's been here 5 years, haven't seen a raise yet. It's neckery, and what it is, I wanna know if they're built into the budget now, or are they already getting paid?
Yeah.
That's the difference I wanna know.
The key to the whole personnel
Yeah.
employee thing is they have managers, okay? The managers are responsible for the budgets. What I'd like to see us concentrate on is the numbers that we think that department should have, bottom line. And if Ernie chooses to give somebody a 50% raise,
Didn't go over the budget. that's one
I'm
thing.
not the manager. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the department's up against. So Ernie's managing it, but he gets $1,000, as
Yeah.
Larry will
Do
say.
whatever he's gotta do.
Right? He gets $1,000. Who are we to tell him how to spend it?
No.
Right?
Okay, I'm not challenging the pay.
No, no,
What
I
it is,
think
I
it was
wanna
fi-
know what the percentage of that budget is salary.
Oh, sure, yeah. It's still gonna be line item. It's still,
Yeah,
it's still
because,
gonna be category.
Okay,
And that-
all
and that we
right,
can
back
do
Moving on.
to
back to the question. That's how we got started here. Okay, I want to make sure I capture. Okay, I'll ask, can we get the number of employees in each department? And can we find out what the percentage of salary increase is for each department?
Fair
Is that
enough,
what we want?
Yeah.
All right.
good enough.
All right, well, I don't have to do this work tomorrow. Okay, and of course, that may prompt more questions, but
Yeah.
we'll, in fact, I hope it does, it should. Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
that, again, I like $1,000. It's money I can touch. You have $1,000 in salary. You have $100 in COLA, and you have $100 in merit.
I want to work there.
Well,
20%, that 20% is pretty good.
That's an hour.
It's like Lake Wobegon. All the children above average.
Okay, all right, yeah,
not all the children are above average, even the good, competent ones. If you take the COLA, which is sort of comes with the territory, add that on to the 1,000, so that's 1,100. If the merit is going out 100%, it's not a merit, it is a higher COLA.
Yep, and
So are you teasing those apart for what the pot for COLA is and what the pot for merit is?
I think that kind of brings back to what Peg was talking about, is why they need to explain how they're rolling all this
Yeah,
whole salary up.
Mhm.
Because we're seeing, well, part of the year's gonna be, well, we'll give them a 1% on this, we'll give them a merit position to that, we'll give them the, here's the thing, I worked for 36 years for the federal government. The highest percentage I ever got, total, other than taking on a brand new job, was 8% one year, because we went 6 years in a row with 0. To see 26% increase, to see 50% increase, I don't care if it's divided into COLA, if it's divided into merit, or if it's divided into something else. If that's a person or a couple people that are getting that kind of percentage, there's something wrong. And that's why we need the numbers, because I can't say that 50% is wrong if it's like a whole bunch of
Yeah.
people getting $1 each.
or if it's
winning the joke about winning Polish lottery.
It could very well be a retention issue too.
Yeah.
But again,
But we
it's
need to
up
know
to the
that.
manager
We need to
that
know
he
that.
knows that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if we find it necessary to include that information in our calculations,
So-
awesome. But
You will be able to get 3 different pots, to a salary, plus the pot for merit, plus the pot for COLA.
Okay. All right. So we've got new questions submitted to get answered.
Actually, there's one more question than that, if you
Yep.
could, Tom. I like what Chief Kraus did as far as he has his salary line, so we understand his salary and we can figure out the people. And he has an overtime line.
Yep.
There are salaries in here that are including overtime in some cases. And if that's the case, we ought to know that. Does that total line include overtime money for some of these people? Or is that just projected salary? I don't see it anywhere else, but I know like Peg says, well, you get people that are on salary that don't work overtime. Well, not everybody, that's not the case completely. I'm sure there are people getting paid some overtime money. You know, something in there. And if they're not, then it is all salary. I just want to make sure we're not in a situation here where there's some additional funds factored into salary we don't know.
You know what? You just mentioned gross and overtime.
Yep.
And I'm just kind of looking, going, I do not see
All right.
a line item. Anyway, just,
If you look at the
He's-
PowerPoint, you can see.
He's got it in his, he doesn't have it in the spreadsheet. He's got it broken out in
Yeah.
his budget proposal. Here's what it is, and here's how much of it was overtime. That's the reason I say that.
Yeah, you
He
look-
rolls it all into salary,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but he has an explanation of it. That's what I was
Okay,
driving
all right.
at. Not
Okay,
here,
so-
not a line item, but he has it broken out.
Two.
Is
there
overtime
any
built into
override?
other areas besides the police
Is
department?
is there any overtime built into the salary lines? Period.
Right, and if there.
That's our question.
Yep,
All right. If so where and how much?
yep, because that explains a lot of it too.
All right.
COLA for 2020 is projected at
1.6%.
1.6%.
It was 2% the last 2 years. So if you're looking at people not getting
Planned.
something, it was 2% and 2% and then 1.6. So it was 2% this year and 2% last year.
I thought it was
I
2.
pulled it up from Social Security.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
It was
given-
2% last year, this year, and 1.6 projected for next year
That's
with the COLA.
Retirees.
that's for
Social Security people.
Social
for
Security,
Social Security.
that's the COLA that they go by when you're factoring in all
I don't
of this.
think so.
No,
No,
That's-
here COLA's 1.7. What is it? 2% COLA.
1.7.
1.7% COLA, 2% merit.
Okay.
Has been what the town has done since I've been on the budget committee,
Now, the only thing-
irrespective of what the
Okay,
government says.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm only
Yeah.
going by
We're
what the
talking
government thing
yeah.
is. That's the reason we
Yeah.
went by the number, that way.
Larry can tell you that.
Yep.
Yeah, for that, check the red arrow. When we're Boston, and the inflation rate for Boston is 9.2%. 8.24 as opposed to 8.23. So
And now we're
what they're-
finding out why the middle class is shrinking.
Uh,
Okay, before I start.
But that's where your COLA discussion.
Okay.
comes in.
Is that what I'm getting to?
All right. Do we have any other questions that we need to have answers to from that we think are outstanding? Okay. Sounds like to me that we've already begun our discussions. We're going to have a big discussion on the 2nd of November. We can probably skip our next item.
Okay.
We could probably have done number 8. We settled on our date for our next budget meeting, which would be
Yep.
the 2nd. So, town expenditure report. I will confess
You know
Did
what,
not look at
Mr.
it.
Chairman, in the interest of where we're going, I would move that we don't even look at that expenditure report tonight. Because we're gonna need, the reason I say that is we're gonna need an updated one that's gonna give us all that data.
Okay,
Well,
just so you
for
know,
the meeting.
this was, the selectmen had this last night.
Yep.
Yep.
And you mean to tell me I printed this for all?
I didn't know you printed for everybody.
didn't.
I'm sorry.
There is an error still in there. That cemetery line, I guess I'll never get corrected. It's still in the, we don't have it.
I'll
Okay.
clarify my motion on it, though. The reason I'm moving it is what is it going to do for us tonight?
Yep, okay, no, that's,
I'll second.
okay, we're gonna skip, we got a motion and a second on the floor to skip the expenditure report. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I oppose.
Larry?
That, who is here to present the town expenditure report?
It's a yay or a nay.
That,
We're voting, we're not discussing anymore.
I will vote with Bob. I will vote nay.
Okay, and the chair votes aye, so that looks like it's 4-2.
But
Okay. Review of school financial reports.
Is there anybody here to review those? Oh, I'm sorry. Me?
good try.
That was good. That was good.
Phew.
I just caught it.
All right, I did not send anybody on the budget committee my questions to Nathan looking at them this month because I really was quite snarky.
You were or he was?
I was.
Snarky.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little bit snarky.
I guess I really didn't know.
But what is happening, I mean, he is going through with this new system. What had happened was we have elementary teacher dental that shows up on, where it's supposed to, and then it shows up again, and then it shows up again, and then it shows up again. And my final, where it was showing up again, I just said, that pesky elementary teacher is still at it. Really bad teeth or what? Anyway, if there is a line item with no title, no anything in this new system, it just randomly grabs something and throws it in there.
No.
So he has spent like an inordinate amount of hours going through and making sure that all of those things are out. So next month we should all be getting a corrected, updated report. There was nothing that was really over that, we've overspent anything. If you look at the revenue report, under grants, we had revenue. So my snarky question for him there was, yes, the numbers match up with the grant report, but I'm old and I'm too lazy to go back and write them in myself. So they will now have the correct names. What did I have on the revenue report? On the grant report, grant amount and revenue amount are not equal. Yes, that is absolutely true. Good catch, I was told. The revenue budget is what we have budgeted for. It is not necessarily how much we were approved for by the grantor.
Say that
So,
again?
what?
Say that again?
All right. We thought we were getting, I like your numbers. we thought we were gonna get $1,000 from XYZ grant. That's what we put in, or what Nate put in for the budget, because that's what we knew. They came up and they said, oh, we're actually going to give you 1,500. So there are two different things that are showing up there, so now he needs to go back and correct all of that.
Okay.
So I gotta tell you, this system, I mean, they had problems with payroll this summer. You did get your check, didn't you?
Eventually.
Okay, yeah.
All right, well,
Anyway, so, I mean, I just feel so
these are
bad for Nate.
the joys of going to a new system.
Pardon?
This is the joys of going to a new system.
Yes. And you run a report and you find all the errors and, well, I find all the errors and then becomes
All right.
snarky.
Stop looking.
Okay, I'm gonna stop
Okay.
looking, all right.
All right, yeah, we'll dig into that when it's time to start learning about school budgets. It's coming
as-
up very rapidly.
As far as the budget is concerned, I mean, we have started. Nate has started tomorrow night, obviously, at the school board
Yep.
meeting. We've got to start. When are we meeting? When are we meeting? When are we meeting? So the departments, or I mean, I hate calling them departments, but you know, the principals, the this is, the that's is, they're all pulling their stuff together. And Nate has started,
Right.
so.
So when do you think the budget committee will see the first iteration of your budget?
Where is that schedule that Bob put
Still
together?
got it?
What?
One of the only ones that got the calendar
Nope.
left.
Excuse me, I keep everything, Bob.
Oh my God, it's gonna be a first.
It's not a fire starter yet.
You didn't forget
The
that one.
first one on here is the 14th, Thursday the 14th, that hopefully we can send the school budget to the budget committee.
Okay,
and-
what month are you in? Are you-
November,
November.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I remember I brought that up and he said doubtful.
Yeah,
That's gonna
so
really
probably the
change.
20th, November 20th, which is the following week.
Will you have you're undergoing negotiations this year, right?
Please don't remind me. Yes, we are.
Okay, although, as I recall, that gets submitted as a warrant article and not,
Right, that
In the
is a
budget,
total
yeah.
warrant article, but again,
Yeah.
you know, when we do our warrant articles, I will be
okay, all right.
presenting that to you.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody have any other questions about school financial reports?
No, but on the school budget, is it the same process? Not having gone through it before? Is it pretty much the same process?
Sort of, except it's not, it's basically what the school board presents to us, and then we look at it and do we believe that this is it's the same, similar process, but it's a little bit,
It's the same but not.
yeah.
It's a good nod.
From the 50,000
Can I
foot
quote
view,
you on that?
yeah, 50,000 foot view, it's the same. The details as to how the interactions happen are different.
Yeah.
The other
You know.
thing too is the book that I
Oh, yeah, the book.
got for everybody, for you two last year. That will be the presentation. So this is our budget. Back
Yeah.
up, back up, back up,
Yep.
back up, back up, back up. So, and the number of employees too, Humphrey.
Well, I know you've got that information. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking on the other side.
But yeah, it's a little bit, it's a more complex budget, so they try to provide all that stuff, so we don't have to ask
Yeah.
too many questions. We still do, but, you know, it hopefully a lot of the questions about where's the salary increases go and this and that will be answered in the material that they use. It's a fairly, and I should, if they can't scan it, I should be able to scan the book and give everybody an electronic copy as well.
We have the books. I mean,
Yeah.
Nate puts the book
I
together,
want the
so.
book instead.
Hey, if I may, Tom?
Yeah.
It just reminded me of another question, because the one thing we do get from the school that we still haven't gotten from the town is a revenue report.
Oh, you're kidding. Really?
I wasn't
Did you
asking
get
you
one
to
of
go,
those?
yeah.
Yes, we
Well,
did.
no, yeah,
For
we
the,
have
you
gone
got the
through,
town one?
if it's possible, it would be nice
I
to
know, I
see some
know.
sort of revenue report as part of this too, because I know they've got to have one so that we have an understanding of what's coming in, so we know.
Yeah, and where is the revenue coming into, so that we can verify that we're not providing budget for those things that were being covered by revenue?
Yeah.
Huh?
I mean, recreation is one, Nick is another. You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Nick has his covered though. I mean, from our discussions with him, that he takes the revenue into account before he creates his
Yep.
budget.
The-
line items.
The revolving funds, we have no jurisdiction over.
Yeah.
That's not our purview.
But
But it would be nice to know what they are.
there is information in
Yeah,
there.
and there's
Yeah.
information in there,
And
but
what it
remember,
is-
we don't have, it's not our purview to direct how they may spend those funds.
No, but we do
It's,
see
it's
it.
not our
Yeah, yeah, we
purview,
can
but
see
we
them,
could
though.
make suggestions.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
see, we can see
That's
the,
all.
You know, the other thing too, Mr. Chairman, the general fund is listed in there as well,
Yeah.
what we got at that point. That's another thing, I
Okay,
don't have no idea what
I
we got.
just asked, yet the third question as to can we have the monthly revenue report?
Yep.
Mr. Brown, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things, revenue and my personal view is that the school district is more difficult than the town because we do not have the clarity of department heads. We have principals of the elementary, middle, and high school. Plus, we have Bob Adams, roughly equivalent to Pat Smith, and we have the superintendent, roughly equivalent to Ernie. There have been so many, I lose track of the names. And then we have the school board as selectmen. But what happens is the line items get shared. The professional staff gets shared. And the grants have to be split. And the revenue is some from grants, but primarily there's about $500,000 a month that is the closest thing to a linear expense that exists in our town, is the money that the town pays monthly to the school district. So that's solid revenue. The town revenue, I swear Michelle does a monthly report.
She does, I think she does. We
I
don't-
didn't get one.
Yes.
And I
So-
just submitted the
So that is
question
there,
to
and,
receive it.
Yeah.
and one of the things that you asked for was revenues on a monthly basis. And I had a whole series of questions of how the revenue comes in, what the sources are, and how that becomes a significant issue for the budget committee. And I'm just not making that a connection because it's outside of our purview, which is the operating budget and next year. And somebody said the revolving funds. If you look at this, which is the second page.
Okay, well, let's see if we can take just a second.
This is talking about revenue, and you'll see that there's the police, the fire, DPW, the tax clerk, and the recreation director. And the reason there's a sideways arrow is the recreation commission is appointed by the selectmen, but it has independent authority side to side and not directly going back to Ernie. And then you have the fire department, which has the statutory authority to set its own budget. DPW, which is an elected office, but shares town staff tasks by statute or skill set. So you have a CDL driver going to DPW. You have the deputy tax collector, who is a certified town clerk. And then you have the library director, which is a single employee appointed by the library trustees, who are elected with shared staff coming from library employees employed by the director. And so, and that is nothing compared to how the school district has to slice and dice its lines side to side. And then about, what is it, like 95% of the school budget is already under the control of federal or state regulation, or is that?
Probably not 95, but I mean anything special ed related, absolutely. And those costs we just absolutely cannot control. And we have a student come in, have to send the student out.
But so asking the DPW head for their line items, the school district. Oh, and I left out Nate. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
And Nate is really the only one who sits at the center of the spider web and can show you where the lines go back out. So you've got the school psychologist who is part-time for the middle school, part-time for the high school, and then gets 20% of their salary pulled off on a grant for special ed because they need a one-on-one.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
and
he gets
that's-
paid well.
The speech pathologist was $96,000 in the budget. He
Yes.
left the first day of employment.
Yeah.
They had to go up to 118,000 to fill it by contract.
I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or was it 160?
I don't know, we
Really
now
must
contract
be,
everything out, so, you know, Joe comes in and does the speech, and Mary comes in and does the OT, and,
Okay.
I know, it's crazy.
All right. Anything else about school financial reports? Since that's where we're at?
Did Nate send you guys the trust fund
Yes,
balance?
he did.
Okay, all
I
right.
didn't print it out. That's, to me,
Yeah.
it's already online. I only
Can't
printed
get
it.
in any of it right now because the server's down here. I should say the modem's down here or whatever.
Something is down?
Do we know where that is? We could have just rebooted the.
It's in there
And that's
somewhere.
in the hallway area, but
I'm not familiar enough with it to go in there and push the buttons.
Well, do you want to see what we have?
If it was mine, I would, but
yeah. Plug in.
yeah, well, Microsoft started.
All right. Update and improve security. We have $2,107.57. School bus. We have $927. I can't even see. School building and maintenance. That was the only warrant article that was approved this year. So we have an ending balance there of 89,000. Technology, 4,000. And special needs, 211,000. So, there we go.
You sent this all out, but I didn't print everything.
Yeah, oh, that's,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Because they got the computers, and those that don't have it, I usually,
Yep.
DC sends them directly to us too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he does
Not
send
that
them to
critical.
everybody, so.
okay. So that covers, do we have anything else about school financial reports?
Just ask me anything.
And that sounds like a, anything? Bother Peg about anything? Okay, approval of minutes.
Oh,
September 14th, the joint meeting, and September 24th, our regular meeting. I saw there were comments and accepted comments, and is everybody okay with what was?
Tell me all the changes that you had put in.
Yeah, I saw those. I made one last minute one and I can't get to anything here. What they had projected, yeah, I changed it to 3.2% increase because they were off. That's the only thing that I
Okay,
changed
when
on
did
that
you make
sheet.
that change?
Right after I saw your thing saying you had accepted it, I went back and says, whoop, I wanted to make sure, and I just
Okay, I'll
happened
go
to
back
catch
in and
that.
just accept
There
it
was
again.
just one additional, that was the one additional.
Okay, that was on the workshop, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The joint meeting?
And Peg, all of your changes that you requested?
Okay,
Thank
so,
She's very kind. She understands my problems with the
That's
Google
okay.
thingy trying to make changes, so she sent it to
Okay.
me in Word.
okay.
Having seen all that, I make a motion to accept the minutes as adjusted.
Do
I
we
will
have-
second that.
If I might for discussion, which set of minutes?
Oh, 14th?
It would be minutes of.
It's the workshop one, that was from the
Do you,
14th.
do you need a comment of which lines were adjusted? Or is it just as presented to the clerk for correction?
I believe as
Yes.
presented. to
Yeah.
the
As
clerk.
presented
Yeah.
to the clerk for correction as well.
All right. We had a motion and a second.
Yes.
That's what some of the
All
adjustments were.
those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
which one was
Eh,
it?
Opposed?
No, no, no.
It is unanimous.
Particular one is at the end.
Okay, and for our regularly scheduled meeting that was
Yeah, it's
25th,
3.25.
maybe? Well, if I hit the right button on here. 24th? Sorry. I was going by memory. My memory's good but short.
2.5%?
3.25.
Okay. I saw a couple of comments on that, I think, but not as many as on the workshop.
Yeah.
Uh, Is everybody happy with our regular?
I'm abstaining, I wasn't here. I saw it. I watched it live, but I was home.
I'll make a motion
You
to,
were, wait a
I
minute.
was
that's
dealing
public.
with surgery for my
Yeah,
wife.
that's right,
Yeah.
you were not here.
I was.
Mr. Brown, you were not here, it doesn't look like.
No, no.
Okay, so, for those that were here,
I'll make a motion to accept as written.
I'll second that. I was here.
as written or as corrected?
As corrected.
I didn't hear anybody say there was any corrections.
I didn't see any at all.
Okay, I thought I
Were
saw
there
it.
were a couple
corrections?
Yeah, there were.
Because I did make them.
Okay,
Alright.
so as corrected.
And do we have a second?
She just
Second.
said it.
Oh, I didn't hear that, sorry.
First, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Two abstain.
Those
Abstain,
opposed,
abstain.
those
Abstain,
abstaining. We have 4 ayes and 2 abstentions. Okay, and, got through that.
That was easy.
We have other business that may come before the board, and I saw some papers from Larry, so I'm gonna guess we got other business
But,
with red arrows.
just for your review, the thing that still bothers me is that downhill red arrow. And I just don't want to wind up in a situation of counting how much toilet paper or paper towels were used in 2016. I like more detailed and useful information. And I still, down to the end of the front page, I want to make sure that the work, the department heads are above. They spend their time, they run their numbers, they are attentive to the work they do. And I would not like to use that charming phrase, a flip-off message sent back to them. The other stuff is right now, Lido is going to be part of the Rochester business park. They have a revolving fund loan of I think $3.8 million, which gets paid back to the state and becomes available to the next company in line, so it does not become a burden to the taxpayer. And the just problems that the budget committee faces for where we are by geography and infrastructure are really a tough road to hoe. I also put together a couple of pages on the scope and value of the Conservation Commission, as the jury is still out whether or not we're going to become a bedroom community with great conservation lands and STEM employees moving in. And the governor is lowering business taxes. I have no idea how that will play out for us, because it's lowered business taxes push up property taxes. So, outside of that, plus I print neatly.
You actually read it. You wouldn't
You have the most
to
beautiful
read that
handwriting.
off.
I have a feeling you print better than you type, Larry, so don't forget to-
Yeah.
You've been peeking.
Yeah, amazing.
And
All right, thank you for that, Larry. And let's see
that
here.
was $2.
And we could read it because it wasn't on the Google thing.
Yeah, working good tonight.
I think that gives that to,
There's,
what's his name?
you know where my words are.
Okay, do we have any other business to come before the board?
I'll tell you about this in a moment.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's one, you're looking for comments from the Rose Assembly?
that's from the board. We're working for other business. Never might come before us.
In that case, you have to accept the thanks of the Grumbler for what may be useful review and summary, rather than rather than paper towels in 2016. And it's always nice to disappoint a pessimist.
Okay, and any comments from our public? Come on, you've been here, what, three meetings in a row now, you gotta have something.
You gotta say something.
I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
She hasn't run screaming yet, so we need to step our game up, people, we really do.
No, I like numbers and I like what you guys are doing and holding people accountable.
All right, and our next meeting will be the 2nd at a location yet to be determined. And our next regularly scheduled meeting will be something like the 26th. Might we want to change that?
Yeah, we gotta think about that.
Yep.
Thanksgiving is on the 27th. We could meet on the 26th.
27th, no, it'd have to be the
It's-
28th.
28th, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's one day early at
Yeah.
Cal's, I got it.
Yeah,
but-
so that's Thanksgiving week. If, I don't know if everybody's planning on being here or not. I'm
Yeah,
going to be here, I
I'm
think.
here.
So.
I'm here.
I'm not.
Okay, do I hear any need to move our next
No.
regularly scheduled meeting? It doesn't sound like.
No, at this point.
The school
We'll
budget has
have
always
a-
been the second Thanksgiving term.
Yeah. Okay,
So if I'm not
So,
here, that's all right?
our next regularly scheduled meeting will be, it is, you can call in,
Yes, you
the
can.
26th.
All
I did
right,
it.
we can.
Yep.
From
Yeah.
Florida.
Yep. Yep.
And like I said,
So,
I
the
watched
26th of November, next regularly scheduled meeting, next special meeting will be the 2nd of November. On or about 9 o'clock in the morning at a location yet to be determined. Preferably not Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to
I will
adjourn.
second that one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
I didn't hear.
Aye.
Okay, I was getting a little worried.
He was halfway out
Chair
the door.
says aye, it's unanimous, he's out of here.
He was printing something.
Okay.
If I can fill my car keys.